Thank you for joining us this week on The Tongue with Dr. Myke. I'm so glad you're back with us again. Make sure you're visiting our website, thetonguespeakslife.com. That is the center for everything that's associated with our missions. You can access our most recent podcast from The Tongue with Dr. Myke in the past few weeks. Pillars of Heaven is on there. If you want your full access of all the catalog of podcast topics from before, head on over there, or you can just go over to anywhere you listen to your podcast, like Apple or Spotify. Legionnaire is in the works. It is a living, breathing animal. And what is Legionnaire? Hang in there. You will see it soon. But it is a collaboration of global churches, which, I don't want to say too much about it until you'll see our website very soon, and you will see a lot of social media very soon. But it's a coming together, and it's a great, Pastor Simon over at Bushfire Church and Living Water Ministries, and I have some other people in Kenya, and this is going to be a massive collaboration, really. And it's going to be cool. We have some products there. You can go to legionarms.shop and check it out there. If you need a Bible, you can go there. Just be on the lookout. Legionnaire. It's based on Romans 8:17. Check it out. Remember, The Tongue Speaks Life. It'll be on there as well. There's so much happening here. I don't even know where to begin, really. But click on the missions there. If you need a Bible for anybody, make sure you reach out to us. I mean, that's super important, especially now we're going to be focusing on Bibles for, printed in other languages. And Legionnaire is dedicated to, it's going to be pretty cool, actually, because our website will be designed that you can go on there. There'll be a list of product and materials that the orphans need in South Sudan, and Bibles printed in their language. And you can just click that on our website and purchase them here, and without us shipping anything or without us going through anything difficult, they'll be able to pick that up right in South Sudan. And what a massive undertaking. It's going to be fantastic. We're not going to have to lose all that money in shipping from here to there. A lot of work's been put into it on a lot of sides. So keep praying for that to come through. It's going to be great. But if you do need a Bible now here, just reach out there. A blessing from the ministry. And, the information is directly on the website there. Don't forget, if you're on Facebook right now, go check out what JB and his crew are doing over at Psalm 346 Ministries. There's so much happening over there. I'm proud of him and his team. And, if you feel like you need to volunteer, they are desperately looking for more volunteers still. So head on over to Facebook, Psalm 346 Ministries. Say hi to JB. And here we go. Cure International. Let's not forget Cure International, right? What a difference they make in children's lives, and not just children's lives, it's their parents' lives as well. Every parent wants their child just to feel normal and to have a great childhood and be able to play and run and walk and just be normal. God bless the little children. And, their mission is based on Luke 9:2, and that says, Jesus sent them out to heal the sick and proclaim the kingdom of God. And they do that through their network of pediatric surgical hospitals that just serve children. There's a link right there on The Tongue Speaks Life. Check it out. If it's on your heart for donations, you can donate directly to them. If you want to donate to our mission, there's donation spot right there at The Tongue Speaks Life as well. And no matter where you donate to us, if it's on The Tongue with Dr. Myke, anything that you see, Legionnaire, anything, it goes directly into the same spot where all of our missions are based out of. And very soon we are going to be pulling another team together, and there's going to be a lot of great things coming out of that. I don't want to give that away, but it's slowly coming together. Bibles in Africa, that's another thing we're working on big time. But it's not just Africa, it's Pakistan, it's everywhere, the Philippines. Now more than ever, people need to know about Jesus. So again, if it's on your heart and you want to give, head over to any of those areas and you can do that. God bless you. The people that donated already, thank you so much. You know who you are. TheTongueSpeaksLife.com. Check it out. As our family keeps growing, I just want to say welcome back. God bless you wherever you're listening to this. And like I said before, this podcast is heard all over the world. The additional content from the tongue with Dr. Myke, we go out. It's posted in so many groups every single day, different things every single day. It's seen by millions and millions and millions of viewers. So thank God for the wide reach this program is continuing to make, and it's all in his hands. And man, here we go, right? So let's continue after all of that. Today's topic is we are going to circle back and begin our second of our 4-week course on faith. And, we started out last week talking about faith, and it was focusing on today, and that was based on Hebrews 3:15, which said, "Today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion." And we talked about that last year. We asked a couple hard questions, and some people reach out, and for those of you that do, thank you for your participation and everything. Before we go into this, I'm going to say we're going to touch on a topic. This will be kind of a brief episode, because I want you to see, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I want you to see the sleight of hand and what's going on behind the scenes. It's very important that we know what's going on, and it's not to strike fear, because we know we're not given that spirit of fear. So without jumping too far ahead, just we're going to touch on something briefly in the news that maybe you've heard of, maybe you have not, but here we go. So week 2, focusing on faith. The topic for today is focusing on truth, and it's Psalms 86:11, and it says, "Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name." As we go over this, sometimes you can lie to yourself, right? Saying that we're in control or we're capable. But when we live a life where we believe we're capable, or that we have total control, then we often do. And we know we live in a busy, stressed out life where only hope is in our own self or some other person or thing. To live a life of faith is something we need to acknowledge truth, right? And the truth is that God is the one in control, and he's the one who makes us capable. Focusing on that truth will bring us to a place where, we live a life surrounded to him, or surrendered to him, surrounded by him. When we live that life where we try to control everything, our fear and our stress will set in. When we begin to put our faith in things like, it doesn't matter, money, which is super unpredictable, it's very easy to begin to worry. Coming to the realization that God is in control of everything is the first step in focusing on the truth. The next step after that is allowing God to have control over your life, right? And if you want to live a life walking by faith, then you need to know that, we can't, but God can. He can do anything, right? Or he can do nothing. It's our choice whether or not we're going to let him in our life, which determines what he will do in our life. So, for your life application, what do you need, or what do you try to control in your life? What do you cling to for your security? If God asked you to let this go, would you? Why or why not, right? Pray to God and tell him that you can't do it. Tell him that you can't manage it all. Tell him that you're scared. Tell him that you need to be filled with his truth, right? And then you can always, the most successful people I know journal everything, everything they do, every encounter, every thought, every, if you saw War Room too, she had a wall where, she had a prayer, and which I thought was pretty cool. She had prayers, and then she framed the dates when they were answered. It was pretty cool what it was and what the date was. And so that's super cool. Anyway, so turning that over to you, like I said, God's going to get involved as little or as much as you let him, right? So At the end of the week, you do your devotionals. At the end of the week, you should share scripture with a friend and start a new weekly scripture to study. Get somebody involved with you. Iron sharpens iron, right? So you can discuss with them. And if you're reading Ephesians now, this is going to fit super, super tight, right? How does your faith allow us to stand firm against the devil? Does our resistance of the devil come from our own power? What was Paul's request for prayer? Where did his boldness come from? Where can we find the power to be bold in our faith? All right, so those are a couple things to touch on. I know, as we get through this, faith is something that you got to work at it. It's not just you wake up one day and you got faith. This is a process, and it's over and over. And, I forget where I read it or where I heard it or where I saw it, but it was, it makes you think. It's like if you ask God for patience, does God just give you patience, or does he put you in situations that require you to have patience? All right, it's the same thing with faith. And as we go on to next session, where you're going to see that God wants that commitment from you, and that goes hand in hand with faith. But we will jump into that next time. So for week 2, faith, mini Bible study, focus on truth this week. All right, there we go. Now, jumping ahead, I'm just going to randomly pick a number here. I put down here 199 promises of God. So we're just going to pick one out here. This one is number 151, and it is Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Man, that's pretty perfect for our episode of faith, right? So that's number 151. And we'll continue to do that each week as well. Okay, here we go. Jumping ahead. Today's topic is something to watch out for. It's something that's going on behind the scenes, but it fits into the whole biblical end of, we're waiting for this last 1% of prophecy to come about. And it's important to see how we're being, I want to say desensitized to what's going on. There's places overseas now where you can, no wallet, no money. You wave your hand, the stores open up. You go in there, you take something off the shelf, it's weighted, they know what you took, you walk out, there's no transaction physically, but it deducts from your account. And, we know that cashless society is coming, and we know that the one world government is coming, and we know that the entrance and the board is being set for this one person to step up and take control. So I do want to read you a couple things, and test me on this. Check it out. This is World Health Organization, this One Health, and it's weeks away, and some of it has just happened. And while that's going on, what do we have going on over here? Trump and Stormy Daniels' trial, and everybody's focusing on that, and we're focusing on what's going on in the entertainment field. What actress and what actor are together, whatever. So we are just weeks away from the global acceptance of the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty. And if you don't know what that is, it's abbreviated WHO, and this is a treaty that includes the One Health agenda, and it's designed to balance the health of people, animals, plants, and it's treating them as though all three are of equal value. All right, so it starts with your health, and this is adopting this One Health approach is going to affect multiple aspects of everyday life, from agricultural to farming to livestock to food production to environment issues. The One Health agenda is designed to globally declare possible pandemic type risks, which will naturally, this is going to lead to forced lockdowns and restrictions placed upon the private sector. Okay, so we had a go at this with COVID, right? And it's, we saw how from one day you can be told how dangerous and how important it is for you to follow the rules, not come out of your house, sit there and do nothing until you're further told. It's another step to open your front door and watch military vehicles drive down your road and set up barricades, and all of a sudden you're enclosed and you're not allowed to leave because you're a health risk, or you're a danger to other people, or you're a danger to the environment, or you're a danger to the animals around you. We're not that far off. And if this treaty does in fact go through, this opens the door to massive forced lockdowns and huge restrictions placed on you. The solution is going to be more mass vaccinations, right? For the safety of the general public. Also more type of surveillance on private citizens. So you could think that, hey, Myke, you're being a conspiracy. This is another conspiracy theory, and you're one of those wackos. Listen, this is going on. Go Google it and look at what's going on. It's being very, very quietly pushed through. We're going to talk about the pandemic agreement. It's just something I want you to take a look at and do some homework, right? I'm not telling you what to do, but go search this out for yourself, and you'll be able to make a more educated thought about it. Right. So 2018, the National One Health Steering Committee and Technical Working Group agreed to this 5-year strategic plan. Right. And part of this plan is the Global Health Security Agenda. So what is that? Right. That's the global effort to strengthen the world's ability to prevent, to detect, to respond to infectious disease threats. Right. So there's already 70 countries, including the United States, that have signed into this. Right? Check it out, right? The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we all know as the CDC, that works directly with other governments, playing that leading role in supporting progress towards the targeted goals for 2024, right? So what is the pandemic agreement? So the most updated version of the WHO's pandemic agreement, which was, last amended on April 22nd of this year. It's designed to redistribute wealth and protective equipment away from the U.S., and it establishes a global governing board with little accountability to the U.S. citizens like you and I, right? Now, they've made it clear that this intends to involve itself far beyond the aspects of possible pandemic outbreaks, right? The latest agreement calls for WHO to be the hands-on entity with these items: climate change, poverty, hunger. Right? It's all connected. So a lot of people saying, this is all about money. Pharmacies, hospitals, those who gain financially on it. But if you read that Wall Street Journal article from April 2021, when we're knee deep in this pandemic, 40 new billionaires were created, 40. And there's over 200,000 small businesses that were just annihilated. They were destroyed, right? Left for ruin. So a lot of people, now here's the conspiracy. A lot of people are saying the last pandemic was not about wealth. It was all about wealth transfer. I'm not going to go on that side of the fence. You figure that out yourself, right? But what this, pandemic agreement, when it becomes binding, nations are still going to have the right to adopt laws, but only per their charter of the United Nations, right? And, the WHO countries cannot make changes that are incompatible with that new pandemic agreement. So what's that mean? So that means, here's one of them. The WHO pandemic agreement, as it's written right now, would authorize funding and support for abortion, The agreement, it obligates nations during pandemics to ensure that, the provision of essential healthcare services, which means abortion, would be considered essential service, right? It also includes disease X, which is known as whatever the next pandemic is. There's a book out by Kate Bingham and Tim. I forget his last name. I think it's Hames, but they're part of the WHO organization, and they use fear as a tool. Right? They're warning in their book. Their book's called The Long Shot: The Inside Story of the Race to Vaccinate Britain. All right, it was released in March of 2023, and it paints the picture of a hypothetical disease known as Disease X, or whatever the next pandemic is. They labeled it Disease X, and that could become the next global problem that would kill 50 million people worldwide. Right? And they open their book by saying this is the work of two authors, but one voice. Right? Proposing a pandemic designed to kill 50 million people might be the work of many authors, but one voice, that they're trying to portray isn't God's. And they're saying that God did not give us, we know God doesn't give us the spirit of fear. We know that, right? So this book that came out in 2023 is just saying, hey, the next one that's coming out, hey, we had a good run at 2023, not a majority of the population died, but the next one's going to hit 50 million people. So what do we do? And how do we prevent that? Right? So the World Health Assembly, let's talk about timing. Right, the 9th set of meetings to revise and finalize the WHO pandemic agreement took place April 29th. It was a series, April 29th to May 10th of this year, right? And 2 weeks after that, May 27th to June 1st in Geneva, over in Switzerland. Right now, the 77th World Health Assembly is meeting to finalize this agreement. Right? This is going to dictate how the United States and the world respond to any future pandemics. And we don't know that. If you don't know that, look this up. Okay, they're deciding how we move forward now. But we're not seeing that. We see who's running for president, who's having a trial, right? That's what we see. So, here's the problem with this, right? As of now, the WHO pandemic agreement is easy to enter, but once you're in, it's almost impossible to get out of, right? The language of that agreement is designed so that once a nation signs it into accord, it's written that it shall not be discharged from any obligations which happen while it was a party in this WHO pandemic agreement, even after it withdraws. So once you're in, you're in. Even if you want to withdraw, you can, but you're still laid obligation to whatever happens while, because you were in it. So let's talk about, if that's not crazy enough, let's talk about the representative Andy Biggs of Arizona, who's introducing the WHO Withdrawal Act into Congress, right? Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, you might know that one. He introduced the WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty without Senate Approval Act, right? So what does that mean? So on February 5th, Chris Smith from New Jersey held a news conference on Capitol Hill. And Smith is, a senior member of the House Committee for Foreign Affairs. He's been very vocal about the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty. So if you want to do some homework, Google that and find out what he's all about, right? He's raised concerns about the lack of transparency in the treaty process. The 90-minute news conference can be found. I think you can find that on YouTube right now. I think that's the best way to get it is YouTube. It was posted 2 months ago, but back then it only had a couple views. So is this a treaty? Is this an agreement, or is this a framework? What is this? right? It's pointed out that the WHO, or the World Health Organization, refuses to call this a treaty yet. And there's a reason. They're calling it an agreement or a framework, because if you call this a treaty, it would have to be submitted to the treaty process in the United States, which could delay it or even derail this agreement, right? And if you listen to Congressman Smith, they're saying this is on the fast track. Much of this has been done without very much scrutiny or insight, right? He's saying that we don't know from the draft of the pandemic treaty that it will be binding. They can't even tell that, right? They say it right on the treaty. It'll be as if the U.S. Congress and the president signed a law that does all these things. So they're moving forward with this, and it's sweeping in just like we would see a normal, the House and then the Senate would come together, and how the president would sign this into law. And Article 6 of that agreement is the one that promotes abortion on demand. He said that, this is Smith again, the World Health Organization, the Secretary General entered into agreement with several pro-abortion groups, including Planned Parenthood, a group out of the European Union, and a Center for the Reproductive Rights. And he said that there's no limits on abortion rights up until the moment of birth. So there's no limits on time length anymore, right? They also point out that the agreement does not protect healthcare professionals, including doctors, who don't want to be participants, right? That press conference, like I said, check it out. It acknowledges this treaty or this agreement, and it calls for surveillance and digital IDs. This treaty set the stage. Surveillance and digital IDs. We know that that's setting the stage for Antichrist, the system described in Revelation 13, right? The future Antichrist system will lead to the demand for the global worship of the beast. And we know Revelation 13:15, Scripture tells us that the coming one world leader will have authority over every tribe, every people, every language, every nation. Right? If nations today are willing to give up sovereignty for a proposed pandemic treaty, wait until a world leader steps on, and what will they be willing to give up, especially during that tribulation period? Okay, so World Health, that organization, the WHO, they still plan to use the One Health as a vehicle to control, like I said before, human, plants, and animals, all in the name of environmental health. Once this treaty is approved, the WHO is going to have total power and control over matters related to health and climate change. All you have to do is look at what happened down in all these nations, like, let's take Africa, like Nigeria, right? Back in 2023, Nigeria held that Nation One Health that committee meeting, right? That led to the country's president signing the One Health approach into law. And that was designed to balance the health of people and animals and plants as though the three of them were of equal value. The global effort on the part of the United Nations, this is a forced entity, right? They're trying to push this through. The White House issued a fact sheet in February, not this year, I believe it was 2022, that enforced the United States' commitment to the global health security agenda, right? If you go to the White House website, check it out, see if the global health security agenda, see what that's all about, and see if we're signed up on there, and see what that entails. Right? In America, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, that's going to be the pushing arm of this agenda, right? It's going to push this through. It seems like the Global Health Security Agency is on track to reach that goal of global acceptance and finalizing the world's first pandemic agreement by the end of this year, 2024. So the Global Health Security Agenda, the WHO Pandemic Agreement, and the One Health may soon become reality, right? The WHO Pandemic Treaty is to be voted on later this month. It requires a 2/3 majority vote to pass. The One Health agenda will cover multiple aspects of everyday life, from our diets to our healthcare, how and where populations can live and work, deciding what constitutes water and land pollution. There will be an aspect of life that happens that we're not going to know. There's going to be every aspect of your life and my life. There's nothing that we're going to do that's not going to be influenced by this proposed treaty. And if this treaty received the majority vote needed to pass, the way it stands now, there will be a 10-month deadline for members states to reject the amendments, which means that come May 2025, life here is going to be much, much different. So I say that to say, not to freak you out, not to scare you. 2 Timothy 1:7 says we are not given the spirit of fear, right? The Spirit of God gave us, it doesn't make us timid. It gives us power, love, and self-discipline, right? We're not given that spirit of fear. So let's just go, what is the One Health that I'm talking about? The One Health Commission. It's worldwide. It's 75% of all emergent human infectious diseases in the past 3 decades originate in animals. That's what they're saying, right? The world population is projected to grow from 7 billion to 9 billion by 2050. So with all this happening, to provide adequate health care, food, and water for the growing global population, the health professionals and the related disciplines and institutions have to work together, right? So this planetary environmental health may affect human and animal health through contamination or pollution or changing climate conditions. And all of that could lead to the emergence of some new infectious agents, right? You see what's happening here? It's, you could go to bed one night and wake up and everything's completely different. And the stage is being set. I could go on and on about, One Health and their approach and how they think that people are connected to the health of animals and our shared environment. And, they are focusing on the changed interactions between people, animals, plants, and the environment. Right. And they're saying the health of all that's closely related. And to a point, you can agree with that. But at some point, there's so much going on here behind the scenes that, how many of you before hearing that right now knew that that's going on, knew that in Switzerland right now, that meeting's taking place, right? And are you going to know if we sign that in or if that gets signed in globally? You're not going to hear about that in the news. You're definitely not. You'll hear about it after it's issued and when we're forced to deal with the consequence of it. So what are these common One Health issues, right? Vector-borne disease. And, it's not going to be difficult for them to just lock down your town and say you can't leave anymore. You're a health risk to everybody else, whether you're sick or not, or whether, you don't know. They're not going to tell you. You're going to believe whatever they say. How are we going to act if you can't go across town to see your family or go, the separation, isolation? This is all part of the plan. Anyway, like I said, you could call me one of those conspiracy people, but go ahead and Google this and find out what's going on right now and see this is how we are going to handle every other emerging threat that comes across the planet. And we know that their agenda is fear, and we know that divide and conquer is their method. And that we're waiting for all this stuff going on so that we can look to somebody with all the answers, right? Hey, if You're not up on reading Revelation and the birthing pains, and you're not seeing all these landslides and floods and earthquakes and tornadoes that are happening all of a sudden, faster and faster and more frequently, more than you've ever heard of in your life. You've never heard the amount of stuff going on like this. Nature's going crazy, but it's not. It's being ordered to go crazy. So we're close. This is not a fear message. This is a well, you know what? This is a fear message. This is a fear message of, hey, you know what? I still know people that don't know God, and they don't know Jesus, and they don't know that He's the only way that they're going to be escaped, that they can make it. Is they have to accept Jesus. I mean, they're gonna bend that knee and call Him the King one way or the other. And like I said, I challenge you to get a piece of paper out and write down everybody that you can think of that's not saved. And your job is not to convert them and not to force them and not to convince them. Your job is to tell them the way. Your job is to tell them the truth and to tell them that there's a way, who Jesus is. They have to make that decision. Your job is to tell them. I got hung up a lot in my early life about carrying that weight of how am I going to figure out how to convince them that this is real and this is true or this is right. That's not your job. Your job is to plant that seed. There's other people's job are to water that seed. There's other people's job is to, get the weeds out from there. The other people's job is to cultivate that. Your job is to tell them. Get that list of your friends' names. I got one here. Let's see. Let's see who's on 1, 2. There's over 25 names on here that I could think of when I wrote that. Just between people that I knew I could reach out right now and text or call, that I don't know, or they don't believe what I believe, or they think that if they put energy out into the universe, it's going to come back to them, or that some other thing that they make, the gods of the past, or if you've noticed, there's so much going on, and so people questioning things more than ever now. Antarctica is a huge one. The Anunnaki is another one. The pyramids are another one. I mean, you could be wrapped up in conspiracies and trying to figure out, if we've been lied to our whole lives about a million different things, aliens, and everything. You know what I heard? I heard this interesting thing, just to throw this out there. NASA just confirmed that, I want you to Google this too. Google, we know that when Christ died on the cross, that there was darkness for 3 hours. NASA this is your homework. NASA confirmed a period in 33 AD, a specific time when they can prove now that there was an eclipse for 3 hours in that year. So I want you to check that out. Go Google that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Science is proving God all over. It's happening all over. Anyway, before we go off onto that tangent, anyhow. So your job is to get out there and get these people to understand that you need to tell them something, and then you share with them the good news, right? And that's your job. And we're at the point where we need to finish this race. You're going to finish it strong, right? So I look at it this way. Somebody said it like the marriage supper of the Lamb, and somebody bought the ticket. Christ already paid the ticket for that your seat at that table, and they just used it before you get into who's going to be at the marriage supper of the Lamb, and then get open debates about that. It's just, hey, look, it's paid for, the tickets are paid for, and now who's sitting at your table? Who are you going to bring with you to sit with you at the table? And it should hit you. And God's going to bring those people across. He'll give you an opportunity to do what you need to do, but will you do it? Will you do it? You don't have to answer to me. I'm going to answer just like everybody else is, and there'll be nobody standing next to me. And thank God for grace, and thank God for mercy, because I've screwed up a lot in my life. And I'm just going to share this story with me, from me to you guys. It just happened recently to me. As as a parent, if you're a parent and all you care about for your children is that they're happy and healthy, and that's why I push Cure International so much. But to know that your child is healthy and, I want to say, normal, but that there's nothing wrong with them, and that they have a chance at a good life and a normal upbringing, and that nothing will hinder them. When you get that phone call or that test result back, it changes your life immediately. And all of a sudden, I just had this happen with my little guy, as we went for a test for one thing, and because of that test found out something else, which changed my entire life in that instant, because all of a sudden the fear and the worry and everything came rushing in overwhelmingly. And then you start to really understand what taking something for granted is when your child is at risk for something serious. And I will say, to make a long story even longer, that it was a hard week from test to test, the in-between time from test to test. And, I had my church team praying for my little boy, and my church family praying for them. My close family here was praying for my little boy. And we went to get his other test, which was going to determine the severity of what was going on. And I can't tell you that feeling of when the doctor came in and says, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with your little guy. I don't know why you're here. I'm not sure why that test showed this, but there's nothing wrong with him. He's 100% fine." If you don't believe in God, man, I'll tell you, when something like that happens, yeah, you believe in God immediately. You drop to your knees and you hug the doctor and you twirl them around, and then you grab your child, and man, life is like a breath of fresh air again. And all instantly the worry and the stress and the fear and the pain vanishes. So is that a miracle? Yeah, that's a miracle for me. I can't thank God enough for that. But there's people out there that are hurting and that are going through this that don't have that. But the point of that is, if you don't believe in prayer and you're not good at prayer, and you don't know how to pray for somebody, I tell you what, I can't thank everybody that said a prayer for my little boy, because I know God was listening. And just like my pastor says, you start doing things out of appreciation and not obligation anymore. And that's the stuff you need to tell your friends that don't know God, or the ones that don't believe in God, or the ones that don't think that there's a way out from their depression or their anxiety or their when all of their hope is gone. You need to show them Jesus. So that's our charge. It's my charge too. So if you're out there and you haven't met Jesus and you don't know who he is, and you believe in whatever you believe in now, I'll tell you right now, there's only one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus Christ. And there's only one way to the Father, and that's through Jesus Christ. And there's nothing you can do to earn your way into heaven. There's nothing you can say, and there's no point of trying to be good, because we're all going to fail. But Jesus died for you on that cross. He took on the shame and the pain and the disgrace of the cross. And he bled and died for you, and that's a free gift he gave you. And it's not just victory over the grave, it's victory over your convictions and your fear and your anxiety, and your everything is nailed to the cross with Christ, and it died. And God said, in this world you're going to have trouble, and you're going to have fear, and you're going to have problems, but take heart, because I overcame the world. Right? He did that for you for nothing. That's a gift. He did it for free. And if you don't know who that man is, it's very simple to just say, God, I believe you're the Son of God, and Jesus, come into my life. I surrender everything to you. I can't do this alone. Teach me, show me, and he'll adopt you into the family. It's that simple, right? God, I need you in my life. God, I'm scared. That's it. That's your prayer, right? Come into my heart and then change. And he'll change. He will meet you where you are. You don't have to get better before you say that. You don't have to quit drugs before you do that. You don't have to quit drinking before you do that. You don't have to quit doing whatever you're doing before you do that. God will meet you exactly where you are. And if you think you're too far gone, or you're too, what you've done is too bad, I mean, there's nothing that God won't meet you at, and there's nothing that he can't forgive. And you need to be easier on yourself and let God's love and his grace embrace you. And that's the simplest thing you can do. And it's very easy, and it's scary. And man, you're never going to be the same. And it's very difficult to explain that to somebody who doesn't believe, because it thinks, even the Bible says that it's confusion to everybody that's not open, haven't opened their eyes and heard this message. It's not going to make sense to anybody. It's going to make sense to you, and you're gonna see, and you're gonna hear, and you're gonna feel, and you're gonna find yourself a church where you're getting fed, and you're gonna grow, and you're still gonna go through these troubles in time. You're still gonna go through this fear in this world, right? And all the pressures and the problems that we face in this world, except you're going to go through it smooth, and you're going to go through it and have peace, and you're going to go through it and get through it, and you're going to go through, and it's not going to bother you anymore, because you have victory over that. Can't explain that to you. You're going to have to find that out for yourself. You're going to have that trouble, but you're going to get through it, because you're not doing it alone. Get your friends, get your family, tell them who Jesus is. And maybe you're scared, maybe you think they're going to make fun of you or call you names. That's okay. That's all right. Hey, Jesus freak. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. They're not going to be standing next to you when God says, did you tell them about me? Why didn't you tell them? Oh, you were scared they were going to make fun of you? Right? So that friend's not going to be standing next to you when you face God. Bring your friends and bring your family. Get them to a church. Get them to find out who God is. Listen, the time is running out. 99% of the Bible it's come to pass already. If you don't believe it, start looking around. Start reading that Bible and then start Googling things and find out what's happening and see what's going on around the world. Just like this sleight of hand that's going on, and you don't know what's happening across the world right now because we're distracted by entertainment or we're distracted by other things. But the world's still moving very fast paced, very fast. Find out, what the plan is and what happens. Anyway, that's it. Next week, we'll talk about faith, and we'll talk about some more things. And we'll probably have Vicky and maybe JB on and go over some other things happening in the world. Anyway, thank you so much. Remember, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not damaged, and you're not, even if you're scared or you're anxious, or all you have to do is realize that battle's already been won. You don't have to suffer any longer. God already beat that for you. Claim that victory and get through it. And reach out to me if you need a Bible. And I'll see you next time.